Come on, everybody, it's time to listen in to an actor and a teacher who love their wrestling. No more division, forget those prejudice. The Wrestling Connection is here with Glenn and Chris.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages and of all persuasions, welcome to the Wrestling Connection, episode 59. We are back in our metaphorical Thunderdome, back to recording remotely. My name is Glenn, I am a teacher, and I am joined by my very close personal friend Chris. He is an actor, and together we talk about the various ways in which wrestling can connect us all in an era of increasing division. As I said, dear listener, this is episode 59, this is the Wrestling Connection, and this is my Kermit the Frog impression. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Wrestling Connection with Kermit the Frog, Glenn and Chris. Yay! I also mentioned I'm joined by my very close personal friend Chris. Chris, as we dance our souls out to the beautiful intro music, which is no doubt crossfaded away by this point.
Yes.
How are you, my dear friend, my close personal friend, my co-padre, the Matt to my Nick, the Jeff to my Matt, the Mosh to my Thrasher, Chris Moffat. How are you, young man?
There's a good one. I am very well, thank you. I just did a Google search there, WWE 59, to try and see if there's any significance to the number. And it's just come up with like the WWE Elite Series Wrestling Figures Series 59. And it's a very American, like USA themed series, other than the fact Finn Balor's there in total demon makeup, right? Which is really cool figure. And there's a Miz, and like it's kind of, he's got like his WrestleMania 33 kind of leather black jacket look. Yeah. But then the other four figures, right? We have Zack Ryder in his like USA jacket, which seems a bit outdated because when did he do that USA thing? I thought that was like 2014, 15 or something. I don't know, but
yeah, do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember before WWE 2K20 redefined what a bad game could be?
Yeah.
Do you remember the monstrosity that was WWE 2K15?
I remember it. I don't necessarily remember it for better or for worse. Please enlighten me.
Well, what came before that was 2K14, which was easily the best game in the 2K series. You know, it took all the fun that 2K13 had, or WWE 13 as it was. And when 2K took over, try saying that 3 times backwards, when 2K took over, easy for me to say, they did 2K14, which was the one with the universe mode, not the universe mode, but the WrestleMania feature, and so you had this stacked roster in it with every era represented, all the way from 1985 all the way up to 2014.
Right.
Then 2K15 comes out the following year, and it was the first games on the last generation, so it was the first ones to be on PS4 and Xbox One, and it was god-awful. The roster was tiny, and there were like 10 different versions of Randy Orton, all as separate characters. So when they were saying, a roster of X amount of characters, like 10 of them were Randy Orton, and there were about 14 John Cena's. And they had this obsession with... So this game comes out in late 2014, and it has this obsession with 2011. So you think, like, in WWE 13, they have this Attitude Era focus, which is great because Attitude Era is nostalgic by 2013. But 2011 is not that nostalgic.
In 2015 or 2014.
In late 2014. And so it's like the new DLC, a new attire for Christian, and the Capital Punishment Arena. Really?
Right.
So Carnage or whatever it's called. And so I'm just like... They clearly were just recycling old assets that they hadn't used for WWE 12 or something, or WWE 13. It just seemed a little bit lazy. Now, why am I connecting that? Oh, yeah, like the outdatedness, that's what it felt like, in the same way as that Zack Ryder figure. A loose, tentative connection, perhaps, my dear friend Chris, but it's the best I can give you today.
No, that's fine. Any connection on the Wrestling Connection is a good connection. Could you turn your levels down just a little bit? You're peaking just a little bit.
How's that? Woo. La la
yeah,
la
go for
la
it. That sounds good. So, also in this Elite Series 59 set, we have Kurt Angle with like his WrestleMania 19 jacket, very nice. And then the new generation Team Angle, so Jason Jordan and Chad Gable with the SmackDown Live tag titles. And American Alpha could have been so amazing. I mean, I don't like being one of those guys like, if they just booked it better, it would have been better. I don't like doing that because like that's not what happened. There's no point in fantasizing about what could have been. We can look maybe to the future, but I mean, I don't think they're ever going to have Jason Jordan and Chad Gable as a team again, sadly, because of Jason Jordan's bad neck and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, Chad Gable, just does so much good stuff with anything he's given, with Shelton Benjamin, now with Otis, and for some reason it works. But American Alpha, I loved them. They were one of my favorite teams in NXT. Then they came over to WWE, had a good little thing on SmackDown for a bit. Then Jason Jordan was Kurt Angle's son, which lasted for about a month, and then that was it. So it's a shame. As I say, I don't want to look back on what could have been, but I really do think American Alpha could have been this amazing team and one of the best teams of this generation. I don't know if you have any
Yeah.
memories of American Alpha other than that NXT show we saw in late 2015.
Yeah, they were great at that show. I just thought they had the potential to be to the level that they would be as fondly remembered one day in the future as the Hardy Boys or the Dudleys. I thought they had that. They're the kind of team that deserved a really good long run on the main roster as tag champions, and I kind of was hoping that they would follow the same pattern that Edge and Christian followed. You
Right.
think about it, they established themselves as a tag team very quickly and were seen as tag team guys, even though they debuted as solo stars and had both held singles titles before they became a tag team. But it meant that when they did break up, unlike the Dudleys or the Hardys, when they broke up, the Dudleys and Hardys were in 02 and Edge and Christian were in late 01. They never did go back for a reunion run. Like, obviously, they had special things here and there, but after the Edge and Christian feud, that was it, and they were solo stars, and they both had great careers off the back of that. And I kind of thought that American Alpha could go for there. My only other memory of them is the fact that that I genuinely thought that I remember once like putting NXT on or something and playing it and hearing them come out, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's the CM42 theme. Oh no, Chris must have just used that for his videos. Because Chris, dear listener, on his
Whoa.
YouTube channel used that as a theme for a wee while back in the
Oh
day.
my god, that's
Dun,
that's
dun,
a real
dun.
you're a real fan of the channel. Then I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone would have got that.
In fact, I'm
That's
outside
cool.
your house right now.
Well, you can come in because we're in tier 2.
Woohoo! Sorry,
Uh, all right, episode. I know it's practically everybody else is fine now. Right, it's not fine, but right, okay. So other wrestlers that are now 59 years old. We have Ivory,
wow,
like Ivory.
we love
We have
Ivory.
Wendy Richter.
Really?
Yeah.
I
We
thought she was older.
have Jim Cornette, who's probably moaning about something. We have Scott Norton. I don't have any memories of him. Tony Chimmel, legend, get him in the Hall of Fame.
Chim, I've met. I'm pretty sure I've met Chimmel at a show. Have I? I remember he was the announcer at Rebellion 2001 when I went there as a wee
Was he there?
boy.
Was he
Huh?
there?
Yeah, he was because Finkel wasn't there. I was gutted about that. I wanted either Howard Finkel or Lillian. But it
Yeah.
was Schimmel, but that's fine.
But then, at like a WWE house show, I think in 2007, Howard Finkel was the announcer
Really?
in Glasgow in 2007. Yeah, I was so happy to see him. And then also, who's 59 years old is Tatanka, who I've met before and
Your
talked
pal.
about on the show before. My pal Tatanka, who grabbed my hand in a very manly way and was just like, "You won't take the picture like this." And we have this nice kind of, he's trying to be a man, and I'm.
Here's what I love about Tatanka, right? WrestleMania 32. Andre Battle Royal. He's there, unannounced, and I feel like at the same point, every wrestling fan in the world, live, both in the stadium and watching at home, all at the same time went, "Is that Tatanka?"
I think he got eliminated, and like JBL was commentating, and he was like, "Tatanka's here." Unannounced, no commentator mentioned it. He didn't get any spot in the match. I have no idea, but it's not as if it's like who puts together these matches. You know what I mean? I don't think it's Vince or whoever. They don't say, right, okay, so it's going to be this. They don't do that. They just say, like, okay, someone get the Battle Royal organised or whatever. So whoever's been in charge of it has phoned Tatanka, being like, you want to make a big return, brother? And he's like, yeah, the fans are going to miss me, man. 100,000 people in AT&T. And then he comes and no one even knows he's there, which is a shame. Is it a shame? I don't know.
Well, he was probably phoned out because he was supposed to do a different spot, and whoever eliminated him had him in his arms, and then but Tatanka tried to change things up and said, "You want to do it like this?" I said, "No, stop ruining the spot, Tatanka. Out you go."
You want to do the elimination like this? And it's just the one she's talking about.
Here's some feedback. Here's some self criticism.
Right.
Last week, Chris, on episode 58, we did our first ever podcast in person.
Yeah.
I laugh too much. I need to stop because my laugh is piercing.
You laugh too much. You don't laugh too much. It's nice to hear you laugh.
I know, but it's like when it's blaring at your earphones, I don't know.
Wait a minute. So last week was the first one you've ever heard yourself laugh?
No, I've heard myself laugh in other weeks, but I was doing it a lot. I think because I was a wee bit nervous doing the first one in person.
All right. Okay. Maybe it could also be the acoustics.
Yeah.
Like
in future, we should do it in a different room because the acoustics in that room are echoey.
Yeah, but I thought it's all right to make an exception just because it's the first time in person. It wasn't bad at all. Like it was definitely still usable, listenable. So I was perfectly happy with it.
For sure.
We should definitely do it again very soon, and we should definitely do some watch-alongs in person. I just didn't want to take the mick. I just didn't want to be like, okay, now every week I'm coming to your house at 7:00. I didn't want to do that. So,
we'll do
summer
it holidays definitely.
Summer holidays. That's what I was going to say. You're going to take some time off work and recharge the batteries, and we'll record a couple of episodes in person. But you asked me at the top of the show how I was.
Oh, I remember
said that was great, and I just wanted to return the favour. How about you? How's your week been?
Me, my week's been good. It's let me think. It's I'm really physically. I don't know how much I've got left. In terms of teaching, it's just it's the final leg now to the summer, but there's still so much to do. So I love my work. I can't express how much I love it, but it's getting a bit heavy going, and every teacher in Scotland's the same. If there are teachers listening, am I right? Am I right? But
and then the teachers listening have all collectively just went, "Yep, Glenn. Yep, you're right."
But talk about teaching and stuff. I had the pleasure over the last 6 weeks to mentor a student teacher in the department. And it was an absolute joyous experience over the last 6 weeks because this guy was just brilliant and the kids loved him and he was just a natural. And see, when you're a mentor and the student teachers like that, just makes your jobs. Being a student teacher mentor can be one of two ways. It can either be an absolute administrative nightmare, or if you've got someone who's, it doesn't even need to be somebody who's naturally good like he was. It's just somebody who's willing to try their best and is responsive to criticism and stuff like that. Which is, I like to think that's how I was when I was a student teacher. I went in there very humble, and I hope I came across as humble, as respectful as I was trying to be. And so this guy was excellent, and yesterday was his last day on placement. And as much as I'm hoping we get to work together again in the future, I think that's possible, quite possible. It was goodbye for now at least, and he dropped off this goodie bag of gifts, and there were some nice coffees in there and chocolates and a few other wee bits and bobs. But the absolute fantastic gift was a cup, and all teachers like mugs. Okay, every teacher needs a mug. Now I have a few silly mugs that I have just because the kids like them. Like I've got a mug which is basically a jar of Marmite.
Nice.
And I've got a Rubik's Cube mug. I've got one which is a big orangutan. But this one had the not the blue universal title, but the original red universal title, which I like. So fans in Brooklyn in 2016, fight me, okay? Come at me.
Fans in Brooklyn who were there that night in 2016, I know you're listening.
Yeah, you know who you are. Now go and think about what you've done. I like it, okay? And so it's got that, and it says Mr. Fraser on it, and it's really nice. I posted it on the Wrestling Connection Instagram, folks, so go and have a look. It's just a picture of a cup. It's not that exciting. But
we should make clear as well that when you're a teacher, you're known as Mr. Fraser. No, that's not just a random person's name. That's your name.
Yeah, that is my name. I'm Glenn Fraser, and if you join us on Apple Music, you'll see it's Chris Moffat and Glenn Fraser. So the kids will either call me Mr. Fraser. Sometimes you get called Sir, which is always a bit of an ego trip.
Yeah, I like that. I would always say Sir in school. I'd never call them by their names.
But I get Miss quite a lot. You know when you're a kid at school and you sometimes accidentally call the teacher Mum.
Yes, I did that.
Yeah, I've had that. I've been called Mum. I've been called Dad. I've been called Miss. I've been called Sir, and my favourite, I've been called Granny.
Nice. On purpose or by accident?
Oh, by accident, just kids in autopilot. But it's not that bad. As I'll tell you one story, right? So the school I worked at before my last one, right? Before my current one, sorry. So the last school I was at for 2 years. Head teacher there, nice guy, but a bit of a force of nature, can come across as quite intimidating when you first meet him, especially as a new teacher. And over the 2 years I was there, I kind of formed a good relationship with him. But there
Right.
was in my probationary year, he phoned. So for context, at break or something like that, I'd been on the phone to my lovely wife Kate. So then,
Right.
at the beginning of the next period, he phoned up looking for a pupil or for something. I don't know what it was. He phones up and he's like, "Hi, Glenn," blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking, "Oh, it's the head teacher on the phone." And so the kids are all like reading because I'm stalling the lesson whilst I'm talking to him. The kids are reading and obviously not really reading, but listening to every word I'm saying to the
Yeah.
head teacher. And so he goes, I say to him, "All right, oh sorry, that kid isn't here or whatever. I'll send him down." And so he's like, "Okay, bye." And so when he says goodbye, I'm in a tiz and I'm thinking about the fact that I'd been speaking to Kate, and I just went, "Okay, love you, bye." Mm.
I thought you were going to say something like you went, "Okay, darling, bye."
No,
Oh
just told him I
God.
loved him, and he just went, "Okay," and then hung the phone up. um,
He didn't say I love you too.
no, we never spoke of it again. And about 3 days later, he drove past me as I was walking up to the school and picked me up, and I had to pretend that it never happened.
Did you not say
But
to him? You should have said to him you're on the phone to your wife.
no, I just thought I'm not going to dig for more of a hole because I was quite scared of him when I first met him, and I was,
Right,
it's
of
funny to
course.
think
Yeah.
about that now because, I think I'm going to be seeing him next week actually, and I'm fine talking to him now. Like he's really easy guy to talk to, but when you're new, you hear about him and you think, oh god.
Aye.
But I tell you what, another
He's a
quick
good
side
Rangers
story.
boy. Good
This
Rangers
is
boy.
but this is the thing, right? Um, and I know this is the wrestling connection, but I'll tell this one more quick story.
Go on then.
A few months beforehand, during the summer, like if you're a teacher and you do your student year and you qualify in your student year, but then you wait to find out which local authority you're allocated in, and then you have to wait again to find out what school you're in. And so one sunny like July day, I was walking down the canal with my pal, and we'd been in a beer garden and earlier in the day, and I was very merry, Chris. I was drunk, I was tipsy, and so me and my pal were just walking down the canal, having a banter, laughing and giggling, and then my phone rings. I just see this
Oh God.
unknown number, so I just picked up the phone. I went, "Hello." And of course, it was the head teacher. And so then
Oh
I
God.
do you know the way sometimes a shock can not only sober you up but give you a hangover within seconds? It was like that. So
Oh
that was my
man.
first ever conversation. So I've had two very embarrassing conversations with that boss, but I'll have to gladly report that since then, all of our conversations have been nice. I've never
That'll
been
be fine.
yelled at. I've never had a bad conversation. So it's all very good, and I look forward to seeing him next week. So we'll
Have you sneezed in his presence and he might have fired
uh,
you like Vince?
wouldn't
Um,
surprise me. The man is something else.
um, you see when you said you loved him, what did the kids say? Because they obviously were listening to your every word.
No, I had to own up to it straight away because I went red. I had
Did
to
you go?
tell
Oh
them
my God.
because they knew it was him as well. So like I had to say, yes, I just told the head teacher I loved him. Do you want to just laugh now and get out your system? And then so that's what you need to do, young teachers. See if you are worried about like an eruption of laughter, give them a 2 minute timer to get it all out of their system. Let them
Yes.
laugh and make noises, and then the lesson starts. Don't be afraid to do that. It's okay.
That's a good tip. It's a good tip because sometimes you have to experience these things firsthand
Mm.
to learn from them. So having the kids just relax a little bit and get all that out of the system, then that might be a good idea. I was
Yeah.
going to ask you if you wanted to do a moment of the week, but I'm going to assume that was that.
I guess that was it, Chris. I mean, we shouldn't really retcon the jingle in, but
No,
uh,
we're well past the jingle. That's a good one. Getting a Universal Championship mug is always going to be something special. I think I prefer the blue one. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think I prefer the blue one. I do like the red one, though. I kind of get what they were going for, like having the same design. But I
yeah,
also get the argument that people say, like, try and be creative because when you are creative, you get some really cool titles, like the new US title and the new Intercontinental
exactly.
title and stuff.
I
So why
think
could they not have made them different to have like? So the reason you want to be a champion is because you're the champion. You're going to be the best paid. You're going to be at the top of the card. You're
mhm,
also the world champion, but also because you want to carry like this cool championship belt. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So, yeah,
I'm all for that. That's the one thing I would change. I do like the design of the Universal, but I would love them to be different. I would keep the WWE Championship as it is,
Yeah,
and and
epic.
I mean, and that's a divisive design in general, but I like it. It's simple, it's clear, and it's nice after so many years of the spinner belt, which I did like, but I think it kind of overstayed its welcome.
Yeah,
But the Universal one, yeah, I want them to, because I loved in Ruthless Aggression era where you had the former undisputed belt and the big gold belt, and I thought that was a great contrast for the two shows.
yeah. For the two shows, absolutely. I didn't like it when it was just on the one person,
Mm,
because I like the undisputed belt.
yeah.
Um, if I was to get another replica title, I might go for that one, like that undisputed 03, 02, 03 kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Although I would like the Attitude Era belt with the WWF logos. I think that'd be really cool as well. I don't. That's the thing. Me and you both have like really cool replica titles, and it's like they're prized possessions. We have so much great memories with them, and we hold them to such high regard. And we're like, okay, like this is like the dream of a wrestling fan to have a championship replica.
Hmm.
Yes, but then they just sit in your room. Do you know what I mean? Like, what else would I do if I had lots of them? What would I do with them? I kind of like the fact I've just
Yeah.
got my one. You know,
Yeah, this is it. I think if when I inevitably win the lottery, I might have a room for belts. Or I like it
right?
when you see like inside someone's house, like Sheamus's house or The Rock's house. So you've got like a wee
The Rock,
cabinet.
yeah,
Yeah, with all the belts that they held. I like that. Sheamus has got all of his belts in his briefcases. And Sheamus is so attentive to like which incarnation of that belt did I hold, So he'll have the
yeah,
Raw tag title because of the bar. He won't have the other tag titles. I like
right.
that.
Totally. And shout out to Seamus. We had a good episode a couple weeks ago talking about my time meeting Seamus. I think I posted a picture of me and meeting him, and I
I
showed
know.
Glenn the video of it. So, good guy, Seamus. You agree?
I would definitely agree that Sheamus is a good guy. Easily
Oh,
one of the wrestlers I would most like to have a pint with.
absolutely. I think it'd be a good laugh. A good laugh. Speaking of other Irish wrestlers that you might want to have a pint with, Finn Balor, right, was on the what was it? What's it called? What is Ryan Satin's show called? Out of Character.
Hmm.
Is that what it's called? And he did an interview saying that he's sort of would be happy to go back to Raw SmackDown at any point now because he's had this great run and stuff,
Hmm.
and he definitely wants to return to that main roster because that's what he wants to do. If you see Finn Balor coming back within the next couple of months, as we have finally, this is something else we need to talk about, by the way, we have finally got the official announcement that
Yes.
WWE will be going back on tour in front of live crowds in different venues week to week, starting in July. So we are absolutely buzzing for that. Um, so if Finn Balor was to come up at that point, or somewhere down the line, either SummerSlam or whatever, where would you place him? What would you do with him? And would you make him right up in the main event slot like he's been doing in NXT?
So I think if it happens, WWE are going to put him on Raw, but and maybe there's more opportunity for him to shine because there's less big names there. But
Yeah, agreed.
personally, I, even if it's just for this one thing I'm about to outline, I want him on SmackDown. I want him as the NXT character, and I want him to have a match with Roman Reigns, even if he's going to lose. I think the NXT Prince sort of character, the kind of traditional Prince Devitt, is the kind of character because even though they're both heels technically, well,
Yeah.
it's a shades of grey thing. Like the fans would eat it up in the same way that they liked Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins at Battleground 2015. Do you know
Right.
it was
Yeah.
heel on heel, but the fans still liked it because it was a big match. After that, then sure, put him on Raw, get him to do the Demon again, and do the Demon versus the Fiend.
That's
I
what he wants. He said that on that interview. He wants to do that Fiend match properly.
Yeah, and exactly because we never got it, and there's you know I don't really know how much more the Fiend can really do before the character's kind of it's kind of got a limited shelf life. That character, I'm a wee bit fed up with it. So I think
I
something like
think. I
that could breathe
think.
some life into it.
Yeah, I think WWE are fed up with it, which is such a shame because, like, again, I don't want to be like that guy. Oh God, what could have happened? But like, I just feel like some of the decisions they made with the character, it's just like what, and then the fans didn't take to everything, and it just then with the pandemic and stuff, it just the timing wise of the Fiend wasn't great.
Hmm.
Of everything really. Um, Having him lose to Goldberg and then come back when there was no fans at one point, and like it just doesn't really work in front of no fans, but it kind of does because of the cinematic style
Hmm.
and that the cinematic style divided folk. Like it was a weird time with the Fiend. I love the idea of the character,
Yep.
but then if you build him up to this point where he can't be hurt, he can't be defeated, what do you do after that? And that's kind of what they did right from the get go. So I get where they were going. The Fiend versus the Demon. is something I would like to see maybe once. But maybe not a whole long storyline. It wouldn't really be my cup of tea. But I am
It's
looking forward to seeing Finn Balor back on the roster anyway.
I agree. It's just hard to think about. I mean, I love being proved wrong in these scenarios, but when I reflect on his run, there are definite highlights on the main roster, like that first night with Roman, um, or well, basically that whole first stretch. But everything else, do you really get the sense that he ever really connected with the audience on a main event level in the
No,
main roster?
he said that himself too. He feels like he let himself down a few times. I never really saw it like that. I think maybe it's just because I've always had such a soft spot for him. Whether that
Mm,
be just because I saw him in Irvin wrestling Andy Wilde, who was just on NXT UK, which is
yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
Great guy, Andy Wilde, and I'll talk about him when I tell my story about learning how to wrestle. But yeah, when I saw Prince Devitt in the Irvin Community Centre or whatever, I saw him. Like from that day forward, I was like, that guy's amazing. And then saw him in NXT and New Japan and ICW and all that stuff. And then you get he's like one of our guys, You connect with him. You see that he's a really nice
totally.
guy. He's always smiling and laughing and just seems really down to earth. But it's just amazing in the ring. And he also looks cool when he's got this great music and
Hmm.
yeah. So I've always had such a soft spot for him. He's one of my favourite wrestlers. Now he's doing this amazing run in NXT. You want him to go
Yeah,
and have that run on Raw, But the stuff he did with Lesnar and even when he was IC champion, feuding with Miz and Rollins and stuff, I thought it was great. It just didn't really get the attention that maybe he's getting right now. We're comparing his New Japan runs and his NXT runs and his current NXT champion, or well, previous NXT champion run when he was the guy.
yeah.
We're comparing that to Raw, which maybe is not a great thing to do, but I guess that's going to naturally happen just because we want him to be at the top.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I could see him wrestling people who are on top now. Him and Bobby
Yeah.
Lashley's a fresh match now. They had a few matches for the IC title, and now Lashley's kind of gotten better and a more refined character. I think that'd be cool if this Prince character comes in and challenges the WWE champion. I think that would be really cool. So,
Yeah. I mean,
um,
the potential's definitely there to your point. I mean, some of the most raucous reactions I ever heard at local indie shows where when he would show up at the garage in Glasgow or at the ABC or something at ICW. And
painted like Darth Maul.
yeah, I mean, but it was always felt like a big deal when Fergal Devitt was announced for ICW. Like you went to those shows because he was such a draw.
Right,
And the other, I mean, there was an insane night, pardon the pun, and I think it was at the garage where like he was already rumored to be going to WWE. Lights go out. He shows up by surprise. He's sitting in the turnbuckle. I was there that
right,
night. And then he wins the Zero G Championship, and so fans thought, okay, here he is, but he's not. He'll lose through
right.
nefarious means, and he wins it, and everyone's like, "What? Fergal Keane is going to WWE? Fergal Keane, that's an author. Fergal Devitt is
Phil Keen.
Fergal Devitt's going to WWE. How could this be?" And then he's like, "I'm staying in ICW," and
Nice.
sounded more like Becky Lynch. And and so like, and then he I think dropped the belt the next big show, but like he always was really good at getting fans to connect with him, and that way that Jeff Hardy just naturally had that connection with the
Absolutely.
fans. Not that he has it now. Do not get me started because are we doing the moaning segment? We can do that
Oh,
actually.
good shout. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Then hint what mine's going to be. But do you know what? Like I don't know. I want what's best for Finn, and I would love him because he's got to be kind of getting to the twilight of his career now. So you want that big run for him.
Yeah. You say that like that kind of Jeff Hardy feel where it's just naturally cool. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Doesn't need to do anything in particular. You just look at him and you go, okay, I want to be like that guy. A lot of people say the same about Darby Allin in AEW, and I totally get it, right? He's not really my type of. I mean, I love his matches and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but he's not like one of my favorites or anything, right? You were in terms of watching AEW. Did you watch much of the stuff before the pandemic? Because they only had like 5 months on the road.
Not really. No, really. I actually became an AEW fan in the Dallas Palace era. Like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So like obviously I followed it and I think I watched the first Dynamite, but there was never like I've spoken before. I think I said I was talking about this on episode 50 when we spoke about WrestleMania 17. I have a very poor attention span. Like and so I don't they could never hook me.
right.
And that's not to say it was a bad show because I know AEW is good. But yeah, it was fairly ignorant of AEW for the first few months as much as I
But
would consider myself a fan.
yeah, just because like that's Darby was like a pet project, and that's kind of when people started saying that thing about Jeff, like. he's got that natural likability, that natural coolness, because it was like week by week his reactions would go up, and it got to the point right before the pandemic where he was one of the biggest stars on the show. He was
Yeah.
getting these huge reactions, and then it was like, okay, carpet pulled from under you, you
Yeah.
know. And I just feel bad for him. It's a bit like Finn Balor when he hurt his arm at SummerSlam 2016. You know, it's like he's going to be the guy, and then okay, gone. So I really am. So I mean, AEW is going back on the road July 7th, I think, which I'm so excited for, man. And Double or Nothing is going to have tonight, actually on air date tonight, which I'm so excited for, is full capacity at Daly's place, all that stuff. I'm looking forward to hearing, and I think I saw Ryan Satin tweet this as well. A second shout out to Ryan Satin, who I do like. Tweeted like, I'm just looking forward to seeing who's over, what the reactions are going to be, how, the people who have really developed over the pandemic era, how they're going to be in front of crowds, you know, because it's going to be different, you know, it's totally going to be different. And at WrestleMania, you saw a lot of very excited performers. It went great. Hopefully they can maintain that going forward when they go back on tour.
Excellent. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so is this the first edition of Royal Grumble?
Royal Grumble, yes. Now we don't have a jingle yet, ladies and jelly spoons, but leave that with me, Chris. I will speak to the jingle lady / garage band and see what I can come up with.
Okay. And what do you want it to be, like a big grumble, or do you want it to be like overly positive?
No, it's going to be a proper grumble. But
for the party, it's a Royal Grumble.
But here's my rule, right? The rule before the Royal Grumble is that when I start, I only have 90 seconds to moan about it, and then I have to move on to be, because we're a positive show. So you have to time 90 seconds, and I have to fit it all into that time. And you can contribute if you want, or you can let me go on.
No, this is your time. This is your time.
Okay.
So 90 seconds, you got it ready to go?
Yep. Tell me when.
Okay, 90 seconds starting now.
Okay, so this week, Chris, my Royal Grumble is related to somebody who has been in a few Royal Rumbles. Pardon me, and that is Jeffrey Nero Hardy. What are you doing with this man, WWE? Do you not recognise a main event star when you've got him? I'm not saying he needs to be your World Heavyweight Champion, and I'm not even saying he needs to be main eventing shows, but he has such a natural connection with the audience. And yes, by all means, have him put over talent, but not Jinder Mahal, not like all these nobodies on the roster who don't, you know, they don't. I'm sorry, I'm sounding very smarky here, very smarky indeed. But on this inaugural edition of the Royal Grumble, I want Jeff Hardy doesn't have long left in the ring. Okay, He's in his 40s. Jeff Hardy deserves stories and programs, and if you're going to just muck about with him and not use him, you're just begging for him to go to AEW, which is probably what's going to happen, which is a shame because they both wanted to finish their careers in WWE. That's unlikely to happen. So in conclusion, do something with Jeff Hardy. Do something more significant with him. How we doing?
That was good. That was 87 seconds, but very good.
Good. By the way, please, in post production, add a TikTok sound, like a doot, doot, doot. You know, like when in Millionaire when they're on the phone to phone a friend. I want something like that on. Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to clip what I just did there, and I will do that.
No.
Yes, I 100% agree. Do you not understand that you have Jeff Hardy? And also SmackDown 2019 sort of time. 2019 was it? Yeah, 2019, like right before Kofi Mania. He was main eventing against Daniel Bryan and AJ and Randy Orton. That feud with Randy Orton was so good. When Orton was like sticking screwdrivers in his ears and stuff.
Yeah. Now, Chris, you're breaking the rules of Royal Grumble because we're still talking about it. I will just quickly say this. It's as if after the Sheamus feud, they just decided they didn't want him. That was
feud, yes.
Yeah. And anyway, we have to go back to being positive, Chris. We can't keep
hang on a second. Right, wait, no, that was your grumble though. Surely I can retort.
Right, okay.
Your 90 seconds are up.
Right, okay. Your 90 seconds is about to start, young man.
No, I don't need 90 seconds. Don't need 90 seconds.
No, well,
fine. Okay. What I was going to say, I was going to back them up a little bit, right? As you say, Jeff Hardy has got a shelf life, as do all wrestlers, but especially Jeff Hardy. That boy is hurting, right? That was a very Glaswegian thing. That boy is hurting. Do you think that they're cautiously keeping him off doing big matches because there's no crowd, and because they know he's limited, and they don't want to hurt him and hurt his body that when they don't need to? So he's having 3-minute matches with Jinder Mahal on main event.
But then I would just almost rather they took him off TV for a while. Do you know what I mean? because he's only going to be earning his downside guarantee anyway. It's going to cost him the same. But what you're doing is
It was a
damaging him.
very Jim Ross thing to say there. He's going to be earning his downside guarantee. Sets are fresh.
That's a fresh.
Yeah, well, people said the same about like other wrestlers that have come back recently. You know what I mean? Matt Hardy was one of them. You know,
Yeah.
MVP is another. And they didn't. I mean, Matt Hardy did some alright stuff, but I mean, now he's doing some good stuff in AEW. MVP is doing some really good stuff. So I hope that. I mean, Jeff has said a lot of times, and even current wrestlers that are kind of still in the prime, like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles, they've said that even for them, who their bodies feel relatively okay, even though they're AJ is in his 40s and Kevin Owens is mid to late 30s. They need that crowd because not only is it for reactions and stuff like that, but it can the adrenaline and being in front of a crowd helps absorb some of the bumps. I remember Kevin Owens saying that he was absolutely raging the fact that he had to do a TLC match with Roman Reigns because getting hit in the back with a chair with no reaction is going to be horrendous. So you never think about that sometimes. I guess when Jeff Hardy's on the show, it's like it's Money in the Bank, it's a ladder match. Let's put Jeff Hardy in there. Which he did at was it Clash of Champions? He had that great ladder match with AJ and Sami Zayn. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I really want him back too. I can't believe that they've got Jeff Hardy and they're not using him. But they also don't have crowds, and Jeff is someone who plays off that crowd. So hopefully soon we will see him back on TV. We'll see him back on TV. Another legend that has come back recently, ladies and gents, is Rey Mysterio. And I was wondering if you wanted to tell us a little story, Glenn, my friend.
Yeah, Chris, you know what jingle to cue.
Okay, is it toilet break?
Actually, no, I'm going to go without a toilet break.
Oh, yes, I like it. One take wonder. Okay.
Mainly because I think Kate's in.
All right, okay. We don't want to, that would be awkward. Okay, so here we go, ladies and gents. We have another installment of Meet a Wrestler with the one and only Glenn Fraser, who always blows us away with his funny escapades meeting some wrestling superstars. So here we are, another edition of Meet a Wrestler.
Meet a wrestler, we met a wrestler in the flesh.
Ooh, yeah.
So, thank you for your praise. I hope I don't disappoint with this edition. So, for this week's Meet a Wrestler, Chris, we're going back in time to a simpler time when I was 17 years old. The year was 2008, and I think the date was November 14th, but I might be wrong. Maybe it was November 7th.
Do you know what? It was. Is it the day of the show at the Braehead Arena?
Aye.
November 14th. That's just stuck in my mind as well. Absolutely.
Nice. So I had tickets to the show that night. Raw were doing a show at the Braehead Arena, and big names advertised. Now, listen to this for some of the names advertised. Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Batista, Rey Mysterio, JBL, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Kane, and of course, do you know who else was at that show? D'Lo Brown.
Oh yes, I couldn't believe it.
Kane versus D'Lo Brown, and an Attitude Era child inside me just exploded with joy at that match.
Did it not last like 7 seconds?
Yeah, it was just a wee bit
choke slam.
No, it wasn't immediate. It wasn't like Kane and Chavo at WrestleMania. It was there was a wee bit back and forth, but it was pretty quick. It was fairly quick, yeah.
Now this was a show where the main event was Rey and Batista versus Jericho and Orton, wasn't it?
That's correct, yes.
And this is also the show where Shawn Michaels waved to me. I'm going to say it was me. Because we were doing like that we're not worthy thing to him when he was on the turnbuckle and he pointed at us and then waved. I was like, he just waved to me. Shawn just waved to me.
Oh, it's nice when you get these wee moments with the wrestlers at live shows. I like it. And that part of that factors into the story, actually, Chris. So, but we'll rewind a few hours. I can't remember how I found it. I think I read about it on WWE.com in the appearances section, which I would refresh many times a day whenever they would announce the UK tour, just to see if anything Glasgow related was popping up. Mm-hmm. And they announced that Rey Mysterio was going to be showing up in the Old Borders bookshop, which, for those of you who are of a certain age, will remember Borders Bookshop was on Buchanan Street, and it was a big, big bookshop, and they went bust in 08 after the financial crisis kind of started claiming high
Borders
street shops.
has not been shut since 08, has it?
Oh yes, it has. It was
God!
Maybe it was about 09 it shut, but I think it was that Christmas that they were clearing out, and I was in there buying stuff dead cheap for presents because I was dead cheap. It may have been the following year it shut down, but certainly in 08 its days were numbered.
Yeah,
but it was
still
a busy bookshop.
Ages away.
I mean, I'm glad that Waterstone still exists, but Borders was great. They had a good Starbucks in there. And it was many floors high, and I think it's a closed shop now. I think it's New Look.
Okay.
But it was many floors high, and so when they announced that Rey Mysterio would be doing a signing there, you know, what you and I are both the same at these things. We get there early, and I did that, and we were, I think it was like fourth or fifth in the queue or something, and I was there on my own because I was going to the show that night with my friend Billy,
Right.
but I don't think he wanted to come to meet me. Maybe I was with him. I don't recall, but if Billy was with me, didn't speak to him that much.
I can't remember if he was there at all that day.
Maybe well, this is actually before the whole Bret Hart Triple H T-shirt saga. But so
Right.
anyway, I was 17, and I was actually just had started uni at this point. And I remember that because I hadn't really, I wasn't much of a like pub sort of guy or an alcohol kind of guy then, and a few lads that I'd met at uni had invited me out to like a comedy show that night, and when I texted back to them saying can't do that because I'll be meeting Rey Mysterio in the afternoon and I'm going to Monday Night Raw in the evening, they were like, "Oh, okay," and I didn't get any more invitations after that for a while.
Right.
Uh, so I got there and you know the way it is, you talk to people in the queue, but the person I spoke to most was the security guard,
All right.
and who kind of looked like, I'm trying to describe him. He was large and bald and American and very friendly, and so we spoke for ages, right? And then so me and this guy were talking like all kinds of things. And this woman and her wee boy were there, and the wee boy was like tiny, and he had like a big John Cena T-shirt on or something. And she genuinely thought that he was one of the wrestlers.
Oh.
This guard. So he's like, "Excuse me, are you one of the wrestlers? Are you fighting tonight?" And then she's going, "Look, son, look, it's one of the wrestlers." And he's went, "No, sorry, ma'am, I'm just a big ugly guy." I feel bad for him. It's like, you're not ugly.
I think I know who you're meaning, actually. He looks a bit like Kane.
Yeah, he does. He does. He looks a bit
That's
like
pretty
Kane.
ugly. That's pretty.
That's not. No. I don't believe in the word ugly. I'm not having
I know,
that.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Do
So
you remember in the 2004 Hall of Fame when Pete Rose is getting into what do you call it? Inducted? Yeah, inducted.
Mhm.
And Pete Rose, he's like, he doesn't know what to say at start, and he's like kind of like putting his head in his hands and stuff, and he just goes, "Sorry, I just didn't know Kane was that ugly." Anyway, sorry, carry on.
forgot about that. Yeah, so it was nice, but then he was supposed to show up at 2 o'clock, Rey Mysterio, and by 3 o'clock he still hadn't shown up.
Sounds
Uh,
familiar.
And I had, yeah, it's there's some crossover with the Sheamus story here. I had a really nice WWE magazine with him on the front of it to get signed. It was like the last kind of run of WWE magazine when they tried to turn it into more of a lad mag, you know.
Right.
But it was, the cover was amazing. I think it was like him doing like Spider-Man sort of stuff. Like it was that kind of style.
They did try and turn it into a lad mag, didn't they? They were always like
Yeah.
phone numbers of the divas to open page 14. You're like, what?
You'd dial up and it'd be like, "Hi, this is Tori Wilson. Thank you for phoning my mobile number." No, not mobile, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, friend of the show, Tori Wilson.
Cheers, Tori.
Previously, and introduced the show.
Twice. So Ray gets announced, and at this point, I was really excited because like when I was like 11 or 12, I fell in love with Rey Mysterio for the 619 DVD because I couldn't watch him on TV. So that was the first time having the 619 DVD was the first time I'd got to like learn about him and see what he was like in the ring, and that got me to fall in love with like Eddie and Ray at Halloween Havoc '97 and
Right.
his Mexico stuff and
Dean
like,
Malenko.
yeah, all the WCW feuds, and then of course his first year in WWE, and that also was special to me because that's where I learned about Mexico, which is why a few years later when in 2005 when I went to Mexico, I was so excited to buy my Rey Mysterio mask, which I showed off last week. So
Yes.
why I didn't bring that to get signed, I don't know, Chris, because that would have been perfect. Maybe it's because it was unofficial merchandise. I was worried about him getting annoyed, like Daniel Bryan did when I met him. Like, but
I don't think he would have. Ray doesn't strike me as that guy.
no, he's not. He really isn't. And so I'm nervous in the queue, and the guy comes out. It's the same security guard. He walked away and disappeared for a bit. So,
Right.
maybe it's like at a gig when you see them flashing the torch to say put the house lights down. It's the same idea. It was like we're all going, oh, is he going to come back? And so then the Kane bodyguard reemerges and goes, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the master of the 619, Rey Mysterio. And they hit his music, and unlike the Sheamus signing that you went to, he shows up straight away wearing his mask,
Yes.
and not the mask he wore to the show, a different mask altogether. But there he is, and he sits down, and I don't have to wait very long to meet him. Now he sat at this big long table, and so it was that where you had to hand the thing to somebody and they slide it
Right.
over to Ray. And I thought, oh, this is going to be rubbish because and they're not going to let me talk to him, are they? But when I got there, I thought, don't repeat the Jeff Hardy thing. Don't repeat what you did with like John Cena, Rikishi, and it actually went really well. And so I get to the table, and he's like, "Hi, man, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Hi, I'm okay." Ray, I went to Tijuana and I really enjoyed it. Oh man, Tijuana, did you like it? I was like, "Yeah, that's what I just said. I really enjoyed it." And he signed my magazine, and he leaned over the table, and he's like. He's not the tallest guy, so he's like
Right.
his like knees are on the edge of the table, and I lean over and I shake his hand, and his people are like, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like this." And he wasn't shaking people's hands, but he shook mine. I think because of the Tijuana thing,
Cool.
and he signed my magazine. And he slid it back to me, and so you would think, Chris, you would think that would be the end of the story, and that I've got away without an embarrassing moment, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, Chris?
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that, but then I remember who I'm speaking to.
Yeah. So fast forward a few hours to the show.
Oh, God. Okay.
We're down in like the fourth row or something like that. And so, like I say, we had some great matches in the show, and the main event, as you earlier said, was Chris Jericho and Randy Orton. Chris Jericho, who was the world heavyweight champion at the time, versus Rey Mysterio and Batista Drax the Destroyer himself.
Who?
And
What age were you at this point?
17.
Okay, good age for a wrestling show.
Yep. And I had a great time. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Then the end happened. And so at the end, I thought, flip it. I'm going to go down to the very front, and because some people are down there at left, and I'm going to get high fives from them all. So I got to pat Jericho and Orton's sweaty backs as they
Nice.
left. Then Batista came past me, and Batista gave me a proper like high five. Like he properly like gripped my
Oh.
arms, and he was like, "Thanks, man. Thanks." You know that way he talks, "Thanks, man. Thanks,
Yeah.
man." So
I bet Batista was all sweaty as well.
he was so sweaty, it was unreal.
Yeah.
I had
He's a sweaty guy.
a Drax's sweat, and oh god. So then people see that I'm getting to high five them, and so I get by the time Batista's passed and Ray's the only one left to come by, all these kids are there. Have swarmed around me. So
Right.
I'm tall, like as I am now. Not as tall as you, but I'm tall. And so it's me and all these children. So I must have looked like the Pied Piper or something. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And
Yes.
so Ray's coming over now, and he's at our side, and he's high fiving all these kids, right? And then he gets to me, and before he can even think about extending his hand to me, I go, "We met earlier." And he stops, he looks at me, doesn't give me a high five, and walks past me and goes to the next kid because he must have just been thinking, who's this guy getting in the way of all the Waynes?
Oh no.
So it was weird. But you know what? I met him earlier that day, so it was fine. But
Hang on a second. You just extended your arms and just shouted in his face.
Chris.
Oh God. We met earlier.
And he's probably going, who's Elia?
Right, okay. You probably didn't understand a thing you said.
No, I think what he saw were all these children, his key demographic, delighted to see their superhero, and this lanky, overgrown boy going, young boy man thing, going, like, okay, I'm avoiding that. So,
Oh
listen,
man.
I met Rey Mysterio, it was lovely, and then I might have shouted at him by accident.
Listen, Rey Mysterio, regardless of that incident, I think, and I stand by this, Rey Mysterio, that is a good guy right there.
He is a
That is
good
a good guy.
I like Rey Mysterio, he's a good businessman, and he's a good guy. But my question to you is, Chris, can I claim to have met Batista then?
No.
He said, thanks, man. Thanks, man.
I met Alberto Del Rio because I high-fived his thumb and he was going, see. But I wouldn't
It's not
say
something I
that
would brag
was...
about.
Yeah, but I wouldn't claim it, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Listen, it's your call. But
How many
listen,
MCU stars have you touched?
17. No, just the one. None actually. None.
How many
I was trying to think if I met Karen Gillan or something because she's from Scotland, but I
how
haven't.
many
No.
cast members of the Longest Yard have you met or touched?
One, Kevin Nash.
Not. I thought you were right up next to Kali.
I was right. Well, no, I didn't meet him though. I didn't meet him. I'll play. So I'm a big football fan, right? I know you're not a
Are
big
you?
football fan, but this summer is the European Championships, right? It's
Yep.
the Euros, which
Uh-huh.
were postponed from 2020, obviously, and now picking them up in 2021. So it's international. It's not international. It's just European, but it's with international teams,
Mhm.
where it's country versus country, and it's over like 3 weeks or whatever. It's a big tournament
In a steel cage.
in a steel. 20 years ago, 16 teams competed against each other, and one year it was around about this time, and WWE were in town in the UK,
Mm.
and Rey Mysterio was on Sky Sports News talking about the show that night at the O2 or whatever it was, right? And they were moving on after the Rey Mysterio interview to the coverage of the Euros, and
Yeah.
the presenter was like, "So we got Rey Mysterio in today, and Rey, we just want to ask you, who do you think's going to win the Euros this year?" And Rey Mysterio says, "Well, man, I was just really upset that Mexico weren't involved this year." And can I just reiterate the name is the Euros, the European Championships? And the guy just goes, "Well, that's because Mexico's not in Europe, Ray." And Ray just goes, "Da." It just gives us like this laugh, like,
Is it?
come on, man. I'm just joking, man. I'm just joking. Booyaka. So anytime I think about the Euros, I think about Rey Mysterio. So this summer, I'm looking forward to tweeting that clip that's on YouTube, I'm sure.
Lovely.
And it always reminds me of Rey Mysterio on Sky Sports News. So I love that story. You always bring out the best in the stories of Meet a Wrestler. And the fact I didn't even know you had met Rey Mysterio until a couple of weeks ago is a shame because that was a good one.
And I tell you what, man, the signature is one of my. He's got a glorious autograph. So we will post this a picture of the magazine on our socials because it's probably one of my favorite signed items I've got from from any kind of wrestling star.
Right. Very cool. Did anyone else bring masks and stuff to get signed?
Oh
Did you
yeah,
see
there
the mask?
loads of masks, loads of kids getting masks signed. But it was one. It was nice because it was one of those ones where you didn't have to buy something; you just showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just glad that I had something like. And do you know what? I'm glad I've got. I prefer to get things that are easily put in folders signed as opposed to action
Right.
figures or masks or things. The only exception I think I would make to that would probably be my belt, which I would like to get signed by the Hardys at some point.
Well, full circle, WWE Battle Pack Series 59 contains a 2-pack of the Hardy Boys, which I actually own, by the way. My mum and dad got it as a joke for my 21st birthday. They were like, "Could you have a 21st birthday and no get you a wrestling figure?"
Oh, bless them.
So they got me that.
That's cute.
Anyway, there's another episode done, ladies and gents, of the Wrestling Connection. We learned about Rey Mysterio. We learned about Jeff Hardy. Who else did we learn about? We learned about other stuff on this beautiful
learned
edition.
That at one point in my life, I had the sweat of Jericho, the sweat of Orton, and the sweat of Drax on my hands at the one time.
It was the sweat of Jericho. Drink it in, man. Right, well, thanks very much for listening, everybody. Remember to get us on the socials. Twitter is at WrestleConnect1. Instagram is at WrestleConnection. And we are just WrestleConnection on YouTube. We are building up momentum on the YouTube channel.
I know.
So please go over there and see some video content on there. And until next time, Glenn, any last words for the lovely listeners?
In Greenwich, Connecticut, it rains the sweat of Shane McMahon because there's so much of it.
He is a sweaty boy, isn't he?
No.
But I can imagine Vince is a sweaty boy too. Like sitting there at the gorilla position with those big suits on.
But underneath Vince's clothes, if he was to strip in front of you, you'd see he's actually got an internal body like Vader. And I think he's just such an efficient health guy. And I'll say this about my former boss, head teacher, that his sweat probably just regenerates into his body and makes him stronger because, how Vader's kit does that. I think this is a weird conversation now, isn't it?
I remember when Grado wrestled Vader one time, and he's like, "Vader, can I wear your mask?"
I meant Darth Vader, but anyway.
I thought you about Vader as in Big Van Vader.
Not Big Van Vader. I remember he said that his mask was stinking, didn't he?
And it was absolutely bouffing, yeah. It was horrendous. And he said, "I'm never doing that again."
Oh.
So listen, rest in peace, Vader, and rest in peace, Rest in peace, Darth Vader. We're looking forward to seeing your young self in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming to Disney Plus soon. Played
Ladies
by
and
Hayden Christensen.
gentlemen, we just spoke about Leon White, and from Glenn and Chris, it's time to say goodnight. Booyaka, booyaka. 6-1.